Very good morning to all of you. The topic we have chosen for the presentation today is emerging issues and challenges in biodiversity conservation. Let us start our talk with a quote from the famous scientist Stephen Hawking, the cosmologist who has inspired so many people. The greatest enemy of knowledge is not ignorance, it is the illusion of knowledge. It greatly applies to our understanding related to nature. The deeper we try to understand the nature, the more mysterious it becomes. That is the main problem in managing biodiversity conservation. Let's go to the topic. Today, our topic has been trifurcated into three different addresses. The first one will deal about basic concepts of biodiversity. Then we will delve into the need to conserve biodiversity. Finally, we can see the various issues and challenges that happen in conserving biodiversity. Let us go to the first topic, basic concepts in biodiversity. Biodiversity, the word biodiversity refers to the variety and variability of living organisms found in planet Earth. You all know living organisms can be classified based on Whittaker system or three-domain system. All the living organisms coming under the Whittaker's classification are considered as living organisms, and their diversity is called as biodiversity. So all the animals, plants, microorganisms, fungi, everything constitute the biodiversity. This biodiversity in Earth is not uniformly distributed. In some places, it is very rich, and in some places, it is very scarce. For example, in tropical regions, especially in tropical rainforests, even though they cover only 10% of Earth's surface, they hold around 90% of the world's species. Biodiversity can be studied at various levels. Primarily, we can study them at three different levels. One is the ecosystem diversity, the other is species diversity, and the final one is genetic diversity. Ecosystem means a living habitat in which various biotic and abiotic factors live in coherence, live in relation to each other, helping each other. So ecosystems, there are variety of ecosystems available. For example, pond ecosystem will be there, grassland ecosystem will be there, tundra ecosystem will be there. These are called as ecosystems. So the diversity in these ecosystem refers to ecosystem diversity. And next is the species diversity. Species diversity refers to the different kinds of species which are present in such ecosystems. It includes all the plants and animals, fungi, everything. All the variety of species present in a particular ecosystem is called as species diversity. Then coming to genetic diversity refers to the differences in gene sequences between the individuals of these population present in these ecosystems. So biodiversity can be studied at these three levels. And there are some important terminologies which we need to understand when we want to understand the problems related to biodiversity. These are individuals, population, community, ecosystem, biome, and biosphere. Let us see one by one. Individual refers to a particular single species, an individual in a species. Population refers to a group of those individuals. Community refers to group of different populations. And different communities make up an ecosystem along with the environment in which they live. So different communities combine together along with their environment and form the ecosystems. Ecosystems present in a huge geographical area. Different ecosystems combine together in a wide geographical area and forms biomes. Throughout the globe, there are around 8 biomes, which has been also classified by Whitaker, which we will see in the next slide. All these biomes combine together to form the biosphere. Biosphere is the zone in Earth, in planet Earth, where living organisms are found. These are the 8 different biomes, originally classified by Whitaker and modified by Rickleff in the year 2000. The various biomes are classified based on the average temperature and annual precipitation. For example, tundra forest is a region where almost it is frozen. The temperature is in -degrees. Whereas tropical rainforests are forests where the temperatures will be maximum and also the precipitation will be more. Now let us see the total number of species described in Earth. Total described species so far is 1.75 million. It is estimated that apart from this known species, the total species may be from 14 million to the recent estimate of 30 million. This includes around 2,70,000 plants, 72,000 fungi, 12,72,000 invertebrates, 52,000 vertebrates, 80,000 protists, and 4,000 bacteria. India is one of the mega diverse countries. There are just 12 countries in the world which hold 70% of the total world species, and India is one among them. India also accounts for 7 to 8% of the total species in the world, which includes 91,000 species of animals and 45,500 species of plants, which are documented in our 10 biogeographic regions. Why our diversity is very important? Because most of the plant and animal diversity found in India are endemic. This is a very rare phenomenon. For example, 33% of our plants are endemic to India. That is present only in India. 45.8% reptiles are endemic to India. 4.5% birds are endemic to India. 12% mammals are endemic to India, and 55.8% amphibians are endemic to India. We are a gifted nation with very, very rich biodiversity and unique biodiversity. More information about the uniqueness of our biodiversity can be had from this website. You can please note. This website is known as Indian Biodiversity Portal. You can Google it and get the web address. Here, so many documents related to Indian biodiversity are available. Even you can get information about a single species. You can refer this for further information on unique species. Now we move on to the next heading. What is the need to conserve biodiversity? There is something called as hippo effect. Hippo actually refers to an acronym which is expanded below, HIPPO. Doesn't have anything to do with hippopotamus, just for a resemblance. It is the picture is given. Hippo actually refers to habitat loss, introduced species, population growth, pollution, and overconsumption. These 5 are considered to be the major threats which cause the extinction of the species and force us to take various strategies and measures to conserve our biodiversity. So the 5 are habitat loss, introduced species or invasive species, population growth, pollution, and overconsumption or overexploitation. The Millennium Ecosystem Assessment, a recent study done by more than 1,300 scientists for 4 years, gave several reports. What they found was more than 60% of our ecosystem services all over the world are degraded already. Huge areas of forests have disappeared, fisheries have collapsed, rivers and wetlands are polluted. This is the Millennium Ecosystem Assessment web page. This is also freely accessible. This web page has several reports regarding the works of the committee. You can go through the individual reports to understand more about the biodiversity threats. 2010 was announced as the International Year of Biodiversity, and more than 190 countries, they have signed the UN's Convention on Biological Diversity, and they have agreed to reduce the rate of biodiversity loss by 2010. So 2010 was the target year set by the Convention on Biological Diversity. But the target was not achieved as per the dictum given in the convention. When we look into this extinction table, we can understand that this target is yet a far-reaching, approachable target. For example, this table gives the extinct species. 2 different columns are given, extinct and extinct in wild. Then a total column is given. Extinct refers to the species completely disappearing from the whole planet, from Earth. Extinct in wild refers to the planet absent, the planet is not found in wild conditions, but the plant or animal is found only in captivity or away from their natural habitat. So, we can understand that around 356 vertebrates are extinct, around 22 are extinct in wild, totaling to around 378 vertebrates are already extinct. Coming to invertebrates, a total of 379 invertebrates are already extinct. Coming to plants, around 112 species of plants are already extinct. The 2008 Red List of Threatened Species states that the number of species threatened with extinction is 16,928. This is actually a very alarming figure, and biodiversity conservation deserves our utmost priority based on this prediction. What is an extinct species? Some examples for extinct species. Extinction is the disappearance of an entire species. That is, a species which do not have the genetic trait to survive the changes in the environment will ultimately become extinct forever. The examples include Galapagos tortoise, dinosaurs, stellars, sea cow, laughing owl, bally tiger, thylacine, quokka, and dodo bird. Not only different animals, there are many plants which have become extinct. This is a petrified fossil of Sigillaria. Sigillaria was once known to form huge forest areas throughout the world. This is the artistic rendering of Sigillaria. Instead of the bark, this Sigillaria was found to have scales over the stem, and this used to go more than 100 feet in height. Most of the Attic plants grow very tall in height. This plant bifurcates at the top, forks at the top, and have grass-like leaves. The plant growing and the most important feature it had was it reproduced through spores. There was also lepidodendron forests. This is Archaeoxylon arizonicum. This is also a petrified fossil. There is a separate museum for Archaeoxylon arizonicum in USA, in Arizona. And then coming to Indian situation, these plant species are described as extinct species from our own flora. These plant species have not been identified or have not been collected for the past 50 years. The listeners, if you could report any of these plants from any area through field exploration, then that will be an important report for our taxonomic ventures. The species are Isoetus dixiti, Isoetus sambatkumarini, Selaginella cataractum, Lestiopsis wati, Ophioryza brunonis, Ophioryza cordata, Ophioryza radicans, Bellandia angustifolia, Sterculia cartiana, Carex rependa, Androstis rotleri, Eriochrysis rangachari, Dipkadi concanensis, Dipkadi reidi, Eugenia polyphylla, Coraifa teliera, Edicium marginatum. If you are able to report any one of these species through field explorations, then it will be a major contribution. All these 17 species till now are considered to be extinct species from India. So many species are becoming extinct day by day. And with loss of biodiversity, we lose the habitability of our planet Earth. The threat to life will be immense and it will be imminent if this is not stopped. So let us look into the various issues when we try to avoid this situation through conserving our biodiversity. What are the various issues involved when we lose our biodiversity? The first issue is climate issue. Destroying and damaging ecosystems and soils will speed up global warming. Global warming is a major issue along with the climate change. It is said that many of the archaeoviruses, viruses which are said to be present eons before, they are found inside the ice present in Arctic and Antarctic. Due to global warming, when these ice blocks melt, these viruses come out and infect the aquatic animals, and from them it gets transmitted to terrestrial animals. This is a recent theory proposed after this COVID-19 pandemic. So, when biodiversity is lost, we get an innumerable number of climate change issues. Then we have the business issue. So, biodiversity provides the natural capital through various resources for industry and agriculture. With the decline in biodiversity, businesses will be affected. Coming to the security and safety issue, the loss of natural resources, and especially in developing countries, will lead to more conflicts and vulnerability to natural disasters, a very serious issue. With the increasing population, food security issue is a major issue. Plants and animals, including pollinators and soil organisms, they play a very, very important role in our ecosystem, in our food system, in our food chain and food web. Disturbance in the plants and animals, including pollinators, will severely affect our ecosystem. Health issue. The destruction of nature increases the risk and reduces our resilience to various diseases. Nature also has a beneficial effect on people's mental health and welfare. Coming to equity issue, biodiversity loss hurts the poorest people most, and it will make already the biggest problem we are facing is inequality in the society. This inequality in society will still be made worse because of loss in biodiversity. Then coming to sustainability, intergenerational issue. So with the loss of biodiversity, we are robbing our next generation, our descendants, to the basis of, to the quality of a fulfilled life. These are the various issues involved when we try to conserve biodiversity. And what are all the challenges we face while we try to overcome these issues? Let us see. First is the attitudinal problem. Human being has the biggest ego of being thinking that he is in the topmost scale of the pyramid. He is the topmost amongst the living organisms. But in nature, human beings, Homo sapiens, are considered as one of the living organisms. Just like other living organisms, human beings are also considered as one. Nature doesn't have any distinction between a earthworm and a human being. This mental change, attitudinal change has to come in all of us. By 2050, it has been predicted that more plastics will be there in the ocean than the fishes present in the ocean. So plastic pollution is another very major threat. We have to form several committees are working on it. Several committees are giving recommendations, and we are gradually working towards a plastic-free environment. But still, this is a challenging situation to get rid of this pollution. Coming to biodiversity hotspots. Biodiversity hotspots are places where we can study a lot related to evolution. These are places where there are more than 1,500 species of vascular plants, and the land has lost 70% of its original plant species. These areas are called as hotspots of biodiversity. There are 36 such spots identified so far. In India, there are 2 such spots in Western Ghats and Eastern Himalayas. In these biodiversity hotspots, gradually many species are becoming extinct. These are the natural resources or gene pools which holds magic medicines for all the ailments which may come, which are coming now and which may come now in the future. So it is our utmost priority that we conserve all this biodiversity hotspot. And it is also a challenging issue because so many people have livelihood from these areas, and government should form so many intergovernmental committees to face this challenge and conserve biodiversity hotspots. Coming to keystone species, over-exploitation. We told about over-exploitation. What happens when over-exploitation is done? For example, shark is a keystone species in ocean. Shark normally will consume cow-nose ray fish, and the cow-nose ray fish will in turn consume various bivalves and arthropods. This is a stable ecosystem, but due to overfishing, when shark population was removed completely from the ocean, without consumption, without the predator, the ray fish will increase in population. Due to the increase in the ray fish population, all the crustaceans, all the arthropods and bivalves will be consumed by this ray fish. As a result, the bivalve and arthropod population will be disturbed and ultimately this ecosystem will collapse because the upper level of predation and lower level of consumption is also disturbed. Ultimately, this ecosystem will be disturbed. So, over exploitation, overfishing has to be maintained through very strict rules. Coming to the next important problem, it is about invasive alien species. What is an alien species? Alien species are also called as exotic or introduced or foreign or non-indigenous or non-native species. It includes animals and plants. They are introduced by humans intentionally or otherwise through human agency or accidentally from one region to another. An alien plant is one which has escaped from its original ecosystem and it reproduces in the introduced place and is considered as a regional flora due to the naturalization process. These naturalized aliens become so successful, they disperse so vigorously, they spread the species and they disrupt the native biota and makes the environment vulnerable to biodiversity loss. And it imposes agricultural and personal damages because of its invasive nature. For example, this species you can see even in your college. This is a very common species in Tamil Nadu. I am going to show the slides of a few plants. These plants you can find in your college campus itself, but these plants are invasive plant species and they are not original to our country. For example, this is Acanthospermum ispidum. This plant has come from Brazil. This is Argimon mexicana. Even we have a Tamil name for this, Brahmatande. This is so much because this has so much become local that we have even given vernacular names to this plant. But this plant, Argimon mexicana, originally belongs to Central and South America. This one is Ageratum conizoides. The original native is tropical America. This is Bidens pilosa. This is also an American plant. All these plants we can find in our nearby habitats. And what is the problem? Due to the loss of the original genetic diversity when such invasive species come. For example, in 1903, these are the different vegetable crops whose seed varieties are given inside the blocks. For example, if we take beetroot, in 1903, the germplasm stock, there were 288 varieties available. But in 1983, after 80 years ago, most of the varieties were lost. Similar is the situation with all the major crops which we cultivate today. We lost most of the traditional seed varieties. The traditional seed varieties contain so many disease-resistant genes which we can transport from them to the cultivated variety. And with the loss of the genetic stock present in these traditional varieties, we are gradually losing our biodiversity day by day. Pandemics. This is the current terminology, which is a common name found everywhere. If we want our society to be healthy, our ecosystems need to be healthy. We have to provide enough space for wild animals. Completely deforestation activities force the wild animals from forest to come into places where people dwell. We need to have sufficient space for them. Only these wild animals will act as a buffer and prevent diseases from animals to spread to human beings, the zoonotic diseases. Pandemic outbreaks can be prevented only when we have buffer zone animals. Buffer zone animals are wild animals which can be found in forests. And if we deforest continuously, these wild animals will carry the viruses and other deadly pathogens and come to places where human beings inhabit. Global wildlife trade is very poorly controlled. We do not have any legislation as of now. This is a very big challenge for us, and especially wet animal market. All of you know I am referring to Wuhan, where the fish, domestic and wild animals are sold without any legal protection. These areas pose an important risk for disease spreading. We could have very well avoided COVID-19 from shaking all the sectors of the society if we have proper legislations to control the global wildlife trade and pet markets, which we have to take at least hereafter with utmost sincerity. Then coming to the population explosion, all of you know this is a very major problem. Actually, you could see up to 1950, the population was growing gradually. But from 1950, after industrialization became very well established, gradually the population grew exponentially. And currently the population is 7.8 billion. The United Nations World Population Prospects has predicted that by 2100, the population may reach 15.6 billion, at least to a low of 7.3 billion if so many pandemics and other causes, global warming and other causes destroy the ecosystem. Whatever it may be, the population is on an increasing trend, and the more the population is there, more there will be demand. So the demand is, when the demand is more, the supply becomes a problem, and the supply naturally comes from affecting the biodiversity. So this is a major challenge which we are facing today. This is a fact given by Millennium Ecosystem Assessment team. They have predicted the extinctions, that is 1,000 species per million in future. In future, it has been predicted that the extinction rate is 10 times higher than what the species had as extinction rate in the recent past or in the distant past. This is a very, very worrying fact, and if this extinction happens, the whole ecosystem, the whole biomes and biosphere will be disturbed. So this is also another important assessment from the Millennium team. You can see the different threats, different problems, different challenges that we face in biodiversity conservation: habitat change, climate change, invasive species, over-exploitation, and pollution. All these are in an increasing trend when studied across the different forests. For example, boreal forest, temperate forest, tropical forest, different types of drylands, different inland waters, coastal, marine, island water systems, mountains, and polar areas. In all places, this climate change is having a very rapid, huge, detrimental impact. The pollution is also on an increasing trend, and all the parameters need to be controlled immediately. There are several committees working on it. There are several UN proposed committees. There are several committees proposed by our government, several non-governmental organizations, and public interested people are working towards solving all these things. But still, the magnitude of the problem is very large, and it requires much more introspection and awareness for all the people in general. Currently, biodiversity is conserved through various approaches of in situ and ex situ. Ex situ conservation method is conservation outside the place of the growth. It can be done through seed banks or cryopreservation or gene banks, home gardens, arborettas, botanical gardens, zoological parks, etc. So ex situ conservation measures are also being taken by government. In situ conservation is also being taken up by the government. Several protected areas are announced. Protected areas include national parks, biosphere reserves, wildlife sanctuaries, etc. These measures are being taken by the government and with public partnership. But still, this is not sufficient because the rate of the biodiversity threat is very alarming. So many efforts are being taken by the government. They have established several national parks, wildlife sanctuaries, biosphere reserves, protected forests, reserve forests, tiger reserves, ecologically sensitive areas. So many are being taken. They are well managed also, but still the demand is more when compared to the efforts taken. As an individual, what we can do? What can we do to conserve our biodiversity? We can help natural native pollinators to thrive. We can reduce or eliminate pesticides and fertilizers in our farming practices. We can restore the habitat nearby our home. We can try to restore the habitat in our village. We can reduce the consumption. We can try to lead a minimalism based life. We can reuse, recycle various products. And most importantly, like this, we have to talk to people. We have to create awareness relating to biodiversity conservation. We have to sensitize people in the issues related to biodiversity conservation. When everyone is united, then only we can solve these biodiversity conservation related issues. That is the major challenge. This cannot be done by a government or a section of the people. Everyone should join hand in hand, and only then this biodiversity conservation measures will be successful. When we try to plant a species in our home or in our field, we have to prefer only native species. We have to avoid alien species as they are very much invasive in nature. I conclude the talk with a quote from Albert Einstein. If the bee disappeared off the globe, man would have only 4 years of life left. We all know bees are the very important pollinators. No more bees, no more pollination, and no more plants, no more animals, and no more man. Biodiversity conservation is very alarming, and if every one of us join together and spread awareness related to the conservation issues to the general public, we can join hand in hand and conserve our biodiversity and give a better world to the generation that comes after. Thank you.